What's going on, everybody? My name is Tyler, and today is the start of the second round of the NBA playoffs. Well, not the entire second round. The first series that we know of for the second round, the Toronto Raptors versus the Boston Celtics, a matchup of the number 2 seed and 3 seeds in the Eastern Conference. The original plan was to do one giant video previewing all the series at once for the second round, like I did to the first round. By the way, if you haven't watched that video, I know it's a little dated at this point. I'll leave it down below so you could watch and see what my opinions were. I know I haven't done so great on my predictions, but hopefully the second round is a little bit better. But I think given how long that first round video was and just how the matchups aren't going to line up, like this Raptors-Celtics matchup is starting before some other series have ended, like that Denver-Utah one or the Houston-Oklahoma City one. So I figured I'll just do one video per series, make it a little bit shorter, hopefully, and just get more in-depth into each series. So, without further ado, let's look at the Raptors as they are the 2 seed, the higher seed in this matchup. Obviously, I guess seeding doesn't matter so much because there is no actual home court advantage. In the first round, the Raptors, they dismantled the Brooklyn Nets. They won all 4 games, or first 4 games of the series, winning 4-0, winning the first game by 24 points, the second game by just 5, so not great there. The third game by 25 points, and the fourth game, 150 to 122. So that's what? A 18-point victory. No, 28-point victory. I was right. Yeah, got to do some math here. It's a little early. And by the way, if you haven't noticed background, I'm back at school, so I'm getting into the flow of things, if you will. And the main contributor for this team has been Fred VanVleet in the playoffs so far. 21.2 points per game, 7.8 assists per game, just flat out dominant in the first round against the Nets. Also shot 55.9% from 3. I mean, we saw last year how he just started to light it up late in the playoffs after his son was born. I think he can do that again here if he gets going there. Pascal Siakam for Toronto as well, 20.8 points, 7.8 total rebounds, 4.8 assists. So he wasn't maybe the all-star caliber player in the first round against Brooklyn, but he didn't have to. So he's going to be very important to step up. But what is great about the Raptors was their bench. Serge Ibaka and Norman Powell stepping up huge coming off the bench. Ibaka, 19.3 points, third most on the team thus far through the playoffs. Most rebounds on the team thus far through the playoffs at 10.3, while also chipping in a block per game. And then Powell, 17.5 points, 4.5 rebounds, 1.3 assists. Just overall, the depth on this team is really, really good, and they will probably let that carry over. Unfortunately, the Raptors only won 1 out of 4 games against the Boston Celtics this season, that game coming back in December. And there also was one matchup between the Celtics and the Raptors inside the bubble. One major difference, however, between that matchup was Gordon Hayward. Gordon Hayward will not be playing in this series as he went down with an ankle injury. So I think the Raptors could take advantage of that because they do have a significant size advantage. They could throw out Marc Gasol if they want to go big and just bully the Celtics down low, or they could throw Ibaka out there at the center, who is still a force in the paint, and especially on the defensive end, but is also a little bit quicker and can match up with some of those, like someone like a Daniel Tice for the Celtics if they go that route. I think the main key for me is going to be Pascal Siakam. Siakam, in the bubble, scored 11 points, 5 of 15 shooting against the Celtics in their one matchup in the bubble back on August 7th. He will have to step up in a big way, take over like Kawhi did last season in the playoffs. I mean, Siakam was an all-star this season. He now needs to prove because, honestly, whoever wins this matchup, I think, will make it to the NBA Finals. And if Siakam doesn't show up, it's going to be very hard just given how wing-deep this Celtics team is. Shifting gears to Boston a little bit. They took care of business easily against the Philadelphia 76ers, albeit the short-manned Philadelphia 76ers, as were the Brooklyn Nets for the Raptors' opponent. But the Sixers were missing an all-star in Ben Simmons. So the Nets were going to be missing Kyrie Irving and Kevin Durant because they were out with injuries. Then the Nets obviously lost every single player on their team, basically. Spencer Dinwiddie, DeAndre Jordan, Taurean Prince, etc., etc. So the Raptors had it easy. But I think the Celtics, I think they got a lot luckier with the loss of Ben Simmons, being the fact that the injury happened in the bubble. But neither here nor there. Both teams, they 4-0 swept their first-round opponents. The Celtics, like I mentioned, sweeping the 76ers, winning Game 1 by 8 points, 109-101. Winning Game 2 by 27, 128-101. Then Game 3, winning by 8, 102-94. And then Game 4, albeit it was 110-106, but it was a lot more of a blowout, I think. The Celtics really dominated that game, and they dominated the whole series, and I think ultimately forced Brett Brown to get fired in Philadelphia. But that's a story for another day. The thing with the Celtics in this matchup is going to be Jason Tatum. Tatum, first round, led the team in points, led the team in rebounds, and led the team in blocks per game with 27, 9.8, and 2.2, while also dishing out 2.5 assists. Very solid, very efficient, a 28.1 PER. Kemba Walker, 3.8 assists, 4.3 rebounds, and 24.3 points. The Celtics had 3 20-point scorers in Jason Tatum, Kemba Walker, and Jaylen Brown. So that is a formidable trio right there. But, like I mentioned, Gordon Hayward will not be available in this matchup for the Celtics. And that could be crucial because now that means Marcus Smart is most likely going to have to play big minutes. Will probably be in a starting role. And the Raptors could probably take advantage of that as Smart is not a great shooter. So if the Raptors be like, you know what? We're gonna lock down on Tatum, we're gonna lock down on Walker, and we're gonna force guys like a Marcus Smart to shoot from 3. We're gonna force guys like Jaylen Brown, who shot 34.5% from 3 in the first round. Kemba Walker shot 29.6, but he's a lot more consistent 3-point shooter than that. Hayward obviously not great, or won't be there. Marcus Smart shot 13.3% from 3, 33.3% from the field in the first round. If the Raptors just force the Celtics to shoot the ball as much as possible outside of Tatum and Walker, I think they have a legitimate chance. And we'll probably see a lot of guys like Brad Wanamaker, a Romeo Langford, a Semi Ojeleye, a Robert Williams, Enes Kanter, guys who probably wouldn't get a whole lot of minutes normally, having to step up, especially if there's foul trouble. So the Raptors, if they can force the Celtics to get into foul trouble, they have a good chance. If the Celtics can just outpace them with their wings and their speed, I think they have a legitimate chance on that end. I think it's going to be toss-up. I mean, this is the battle of stars between Tatum and Pascal Siakam, and these two stars play very differently. Siakam, a lot bigger, probably more three-point line and in, whereas Tatum, more three-point line and out, has the ability to drive. So we'll really get to see who is this alpha dog. And looking at Jason Tatum specifically, if he wants to get into that top 15 conversation, if he's not already there, he needs to channel what he did in the playoffs his rookie season where he carried the Celtics to the Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals against the LeBron James-led Cavaliers. If he can do that, Jason Tatum, I think, can carry this team past the Raptors, past most likely the Bucks in the second round, although that's a video for another day. Bucks Heat, very excited about that one. And then carry the Celtics to the NBA Finals, where I don't think they'll win the Finals against whoever comes out of the West, unless it's like Dallas or Utah. But even then, that'd be a tough series. If it's one of the LA teams, I think the LA teams win it. But Tatum has a great opportunity on a stage like this to carry this roster. One other interesting point to note before I give my prediction. Obviously, this week has been very crazy. I'm recording this on Saturday, August 29th, 1 week after the Jacob Blake shooting in Kenosha, Wisconsin. There was a protest. This game was supposed to be, Game 1 of this series was supposed to be played on Thursday. Obviously, there was protests, boycotting by all the NBA teams in the bubble. And Jaylen Brown has been very vocal about wanting to go protest and support those who are calling for supporting the Black Lives Matter movement and being there on the front line saying this is an issue that needs to be addressed now. And he even said in a press conference that he is not 100% certain that owners will hold on their word with supporting Black Lives Matter movements. And that could be a distraction. Although I think Brown is a tremendous player, I don't think he'll let that be a distraction. That can possibly hurt this team if his head is somewhere else when it should be on the basketball court, because that's a huge impact right there, because Brown is an important player. They're already down a wing, like I mentioned, in Hayward, so it'll be very important for them Brad Stevens to keep this team in focus. One more thing. Sorry, I promise, before I give my prediction. The coaching battle between these two teams, Brad Stevens in Boston and Nick Nurse, the coach of the year in Toronto. I think we'll see some very unique matchups and play calls, etc., between these two coaches because they are two of the brightest young coaches in the NBA. Now for my prediction. I think this series is going to go to 6 or 7. 6 if one team just gets hot the first 2 games. 7 if it's just back and forth the whole way through. Ultimately, I'm gonna place my bet on 7 games between these two teams. They play, although the Celtics 3-1 in the regular season, not very encouraging for the Raptors, but it's a whole new season. 3 of their first 3 matchups between the Raptors and Celtics were played before January 1st. So if that tells you anything, that a lot has changed since then. Ultimately, I am going to go with Boston. I think although the Gordon Hayward injury will hurt, I think Jason Tatum will step up big. Kemba Walker will step up big. I just don't think the Raptors will be able to compete with these Celtics wings as the Celtics will be able to handle the Raptors' size per se. I think we'll see a lot of Pascal Siakam on Jason Tatum, and that's a matchup that favors Tatum really well. OG Anunoby is another guy you got to watch for the Raptors. He could probably guard someone. But all the Celtics got to do is just get going in one game from 3. Then they got to do it again. And just stretch out this Raptors defense because they can stretch them out. They can then allow Tatum and Walker to attack the paint, which is where they thrive. But let me know what y'all think down below. Do the Celtics pull this one out in 7 games, or is the Raptors going to make it back to their second straight Eastern Conference Finals? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank y'all so much for watching. I greatly appreciate it, and we'll see you next time.